Hello, everybody. Welcome back for our final session of the 2022 America East Spread Respect Forum. We are really excited to hear from our esteemed panelists today. I am going to get off here and turn things over to our moderator, but I just want to introduce him. We have Matt Burke, our Senior Associate Commissioner of Broadcast Media and Partnerships, who is going to be leading this conversation. Matt is a longtime America East veteran and has been dialed into our Spread Respect Forum and Spread Respect initiative for many years. So Matt, I'm going to turn things over to you to get us started here.
No, thanks, Kate. I appreciate that and excited to get going with our panelists. It's been a great day, great couple of days. And certainly we look forward to, the bar's been raised, but we look forward to maybe exceeding that bar here in the last panel of the day. I'm happy to be joined by Marissa Robinson and Fatou Sissoko Stevens. Marissa started at Georgetown in the fall of 2020 in the newly created role of Executive Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. She's responsible for overseeing the departmental DEI efforts and strategically setting the vision for the department. Previously, she was at the NCAA, where she served as an Assistant Director of Leadership Development. She's was a four-year field hockey student athlete, graduated from Kane University with a bachelor's degree in special education and psychology, and earned her master's degree in sport leadership at BCU. So welcome to Marissa. And she is joined, as I mentioned, by Fatou Sissoko Stevens, an NCAA women's basketball and WNBA referee, born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island. She has over 17 years of NCAA collegiate experience in the officiating world, working multiple conferences across the nation, with over 10 NCAA tournament appearances. In 2012, the NBA G League, then known as the D League, hired Fatou and an elite group of officials presently officiating in the NBA or WNBA. Prior to her officiating career, Fatou earned a bachelor's degree in kinesiology with a minor in psychology at the University of Rhode Island. And she and her husband, Michael, who's also involved in the college officiating landscape, have a 15-year-old son who's thriving in high school athletics at this point and on the path to doing great things like his parents. So welcome to both Fatou and Marissa. And like I said, eager to get excited here. And obviously, sports is the common thread through your journey, but each of your journeys is going to be very unique. So if you just want to tell us a little bit about the path that took you to where you are now, and we'll start with Marissa.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. Excited to be here with you all today. So a little bit about my journey. I honestly, if you would have asked me when I was younger, if I would be sitting here in this role today, I would have said no. I wouldn't even have been able to name this role. So for me, my journey has been not where I thought it would take me, but very excited and grateful for where it has. I've always been the person growing up that I wanted to do a million different things. I went from wanting to be a surgeon to wanting to be, like on a CSI and all these things and work in forensics, wanting to be a teacher. All the common thread through all of those for me initially was helping others. How can I give back to other individuals? And I'd been an athlete all my life. And in college, I realized, wait, I can do this like all the time. Like once my college career is over, I can still stay in college athletics and use this arena as my, classroom, because my degree is in education. So I decided to do just that. I reached out to a bunch of people, learned how they got to where they were, and decided that I wanted to give this a shot and earned the NCAA postgraduate internship in leadership development. And that's really where my career took off. And I learned so much more about all of the possibilities in athletics, in sports. Focused a lot of my time on programming that was specific to women, helping women and ethnic minorities into leadership roles. Because as you all have talked about and have seen, those minorities do not typically sit in head coaching positions or in the athletic director or the commissioner chair. So really working on programs there and really learned a lot about myself along the way. And then when this position opened up at Georgetown, it allowed me to keep that thread of helping others, that thread of education and that thread of sports all together, but now adding social justice on top. So I definitely did not think that I would be in diversity, equity, and inclusion when I initially started off in my career, but when I look back, every step of the way was preparing me for just that, to be able to create spaces where people could be their authentic selves. So really grateful for where this journey has taken me.
Great. Fatu, how about your journey?
Hello, everyone. It's been a journey, 17 years, full of great times. I started back in 2005. My husband is now, but not back then, was the one that kind of triggered the whole thing. And I was the one in high school that, hey, ref, that's a foul. And they're like, well, you should referee if you think you know the call. So I was the one that always had something to say. Didn't get technical fouls. I think I might have got one, but they would just, encourage me to do it. And eventually I have a good friend of mine who was like, you know what, let's go talk to Mike Stevens. He officiates college basketball. Let's talk to him about how do we get going. So sure enough, we went to his office one day and sat down with him. He says, well, I can make you a Division I referee in 1 year. I picked up my bag and I was like, okay, this guy's playing games. He's playing jokes. So lo and behold, he basically personally trained me and my friend. And then the rest is history. Talked to Barbara Jacobs, who was the America East supervisor back in 2005. And she gave me an opportunity. She gave me my first America East contract. And that it has a place in my heart to this day for working for the American East Conference, which is my first D1. So she worked with me. She gave me mentors, Denise Brooks, Benita Spence, Rachel Jones, Dee Cantner. They all worked with me throughout the year, saw my games and said, hey, work on this, work on that. Went to training camps in the summer, just got better and better and better. And lo and behold, through the history of it, Dee Cantner ended up hiring me. I went to the NBA D League at the time, which is G League now, and got a different development and training then to the program. And then within 2-3 years, I was hired in the WNBA by Dee Cantner, who was a supervisor official at that time. So they helped me and I progressed and I took advantage of it and I kept going. And I haven't stopped and I don't want to stop. So it's fun.
That's great. That's great. And we're going to talk about mentors and sponsors later on in the conversation, but certainly a lot of great names and great memories that you bring up there, the two of certainly some great officials over the time in this conference. So fun to look back on that. We're also happy to be joined by Ayanna Duncanson. So welcome, Ayanna. Thanks for joining us. Ayanna is currently part of the collegiate sports marketing team at Under Armour. And prior to Under Armour, she worked 3.5 years as manager of player services for the NFL's Players Union on their marketing and licensing areas. She worked with over 20 NFL and NFL Players Association sponsors and licensees, driving off-field marketing and revenue for the players. And she was named Sports Business Journal's New Voices Under 30 class of 2020. I'm always reminded anytime I hear that. We had a former commissioner who made the 40 under 40, and one of our presidents said that's twice good news. One is you're on the list, and also you're under 40. And so, Ayanna, same thing here. You're doing great things at a very young age, and certainly happy to have you join our panel here. And we were just answering the first question about your journey to this point. So a good chance for you to jump in and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yes, thank you so much for the intro, and I apologize for my little delay there. I was wrapping up some urgent work items, so thank you. But no, so excited to be here with you all. My journey has been, I find it just to be one of passion and purpose. I was a student athlete growing up. I've played sports my whole entire life. I was offered a scholarship to play basketball at a small D2 school in Connecticut, the University of New Haven. They are part of the Northeast 10 Conference. Just like any 18-year-old at the time, like I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do or where I wanted to be, tried some things and like knew what I hated. So I was like, I don't like criminal justice. I don't like this. And I knew I just liked sports. So I was always like, okay, I'm going to do stuff that I enjoy doing versus forcing myself into something that I don't like just because it makes me money or whatever it may be. I just find that like I'm a better human being that way if I'm spending 8 to 10 hours at work and I'm doing something I genuinely enjoy. And so as I learned more about the industry, I knew that I wanted to be in sports marketing, specifically working with athletes, working with brands, because so much of sports is rooted in athletes and the products that they put on the court or the field or anything like that. And then the moments and what that means for the fans, there's something so beautiful about that. So when a brand can come in and kind of harness the love of all of those things and do that well, that was something I wanted to kind of master. So I spent my first few years out of graduate school at an agency learning like traditional sports sponsorship marketing. And that has been the groundwork for so much of my career moving forward. I was like overworked and underpaid, doing a lot for not a lot of money at all. But because of that, I learned so much at such a quick rate, and it's allowed me to move through my career really, really well. But then, I joined the NFLPA. That one, again, that move was out of purpose and passion. There was so much going on the field at the time. So I started the PA about a year into all of the Colin Kaepernick and kneeling for the flag and all of that sort of stuff. And I knew if I was going to work in sports, I wanted to be on the right side of that kind of conversation and empower our athletes. So just, thanks to God, a great opportunity came up with the PA to join their athlete marketing team and to do just that. Work with athletes, work with brands, work with the union to advocate and empower our athletes. And then purpose and passion comes up again. NIL starts happening. Athletes are allowed to, create opportunities for themselves and make money off the field. And there's a lot in that space. And I knew that I wanted to try to figure out how to best support athletes in that and not take advantage of them, because a lot of the times you have entities that will do that. And then this opportunity with Under Armour has came up, and I've been doing that for about 4.5 months, doing some NIL and some different collegiate sports marketing work, which has been so amazing. And so shout out to South Carolina Gamecocks. They are an Under Armour team and they just won the national championship. So they've been keeping me busy over the last few days.
Great. Well, thanks for that. As you mentioned, you're new to your role, very new to your role, and the same for Marissa. And these are newly created positions. So just wondering for the two of you, I imagine these roles, there's freedom to take on initiatives and projects that are maybe important to you, that there isn't necessarily a clear defined path for you. So how are you approaching these new opportunities? And Ayanna, I guess we'll start with you.
Sure, that's such a great question. And I just am coming off of doing something just like that. So the great thing about being new in a role is that, or even new to a company, I've learned is that there may be things that have been done and people just do stuff because that's how it's always been done. But when you're new, you kind of look at things and you're like, oh, like this doesn't make any sense, or we should really do something in this area. And you just get to play this new card of like, oh, I don't know how anything goes around here. And so I've been able to do a little bit of that at UA and just finished wrapping up a really, really cool first of its kind NIL opportunity that I did with the South Carolina women's basketball team, where I did licensing agreements with every single player on the team to put a jersey. It's like a shirt, but a jersey, like a shirt and a jersey together, but basically offer fans the opportunity to purchase their favorite player's jersey and support them throughout the course of the tournament. And that has been really, really fun. It's something that's never been done before, but like a very simple way of like using athletes and apparel to empower sports and empower females. Like just, it seemed like something that made like sense. So you just pitch it and people look at you like you're crazy, and then you get it done and they're like, oh, I'm never gonna doubt you again. So it's been kind of cool.
And Marissa, same for you, obviously a new position and one that we're seeing nationwide becoming certainly a more visible position, a more important position. What are your thoughts as you step into this role and are able to shape it, not just for yourself, but potentially for others?
Yeah, I think a lot of what Ayanna said resonates, because when you start, especially in a role like starting in a DEI role in 2020 was everyone's looking at you for answers, right? Like our country is still really highly focused on racial justice and how we can, create better environments for our Black student athletes. But like, you don't even know where to park your car. You don't even know the basic systems of what you're doing. So everyone is looking at you for answers, but you're looking at them like, I don't even know like where my office is yet. So there's that piece of like trying to figure out like, how can I be of service when I haven't had time to assess, right? Because in some roles you are given time to truly transition, and some roles are like, I need you here to get started right away. And really, what I really love about this being a newly creative role, a lot to what Ayanna said, there is no, hey, Marissa, these are the programs we've done before. This is what we want to see continue to happen. It was completely blank canvas. Like when I talked to our athletic director, Lee Reed, about like, hey, what do you see for this role? He's like, it's a blank canvas that we're going to paint over time. And that's really the kind of the mantra that I've been able to stick to as we're doing this, and really know that we're going to do things with intentionality as well. We're not just going to do things to check the box. We are going to make sure that whatever we do is going to be sustainable for the programming that we have. So the really big positive of this is that you do have a blank slate. You're like, oh, okay, I can bring in this program that isn't cookie cutter, that's going to really make people think, and no one has anything to compare it to be able to say, well, I think I like this one better. So you're really being able to give this space. The con of starting a new role that there is no blueprint is it takes time to build one. You have to make sure that you're figuring out what are the needs specific to, for me, your institution. So what does Georgetown need from me? What do my student athletes need? What do my coaches need? What does staff need, right? Like that takes a long time to build, especially as you're trying to build trust with people, as we're talking about a very sensitive and hardworking topics. So the con is that it definitely takes time. And over the last couple of months, I've really heard this. I was listening to a panel, and this really resonated with me of if your role is an architect or a firefighter. And then these brand new roles, you are given a space to be an architect, to be able to create things. However, sometimes with diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're a firefighter, right? So right now, I would say, as I'm trying to navigate this space, I'm trying to make sure that I'm more of an architect than a firefighter, knowing some days I'm going to have to show up and put out the fire and make sure that everything's okay, when other days I'm going to truly be able to build to make our institution a better place.
And you mentioned specific to Georgetown, but Marissa, is that your focus, or are there others you can kind of rely on who are going through the same thing, or is it so unique campus to campus and region to region? And I guess, how do you kind of network within your professional area?
Yeah, it's both, right? So some of the things that are unique to a private Jesuit institution may be different from, a public state institution. However, there are networks. So there's an organization called DICE that I'm on the board of, and we have monthly meetings. And this is for other diversity, equity, and inclusion professionals across the country, or people that are just interested or collaborate with DEI professionals, to be able to join in those meetings, to be able to ask questions and build best practices from one another. Even though this is a brand new role and I'm creating it from scratch, my ideas don't have to be 100% from scratch, right? If another school has a mentorship program for their minority students, I'm reaching out to them to learn, hey, what worked well for you? What challenges did you run into as you started to create this? And then being able to adapt that to bring it to Georgetown. And then same here, like I've had an organization called A Long Talk come to campus last week, and they were amazing. So I'm like on Twitter, like I highly recommend this for everyone, right? Like we shouldn't have to do this by ourselves. It should be a community.
And for two, you're in an industry that obviously has been around for a while, but has probably never been more scrutinized in terms of video replay, and everybody has access to whatever device. They can go back and watch plays, and everything is televised or at least streamed. How do you deal with those challenges, and how do you mentally prepare yourself for success day in, day out, when so many eyeballs are on what you and your other two teammates, if you will, are doing on the floor?
Well, we definitely have that microscope, like an ant with a microscope, right? Or a magnifying glass. And, we try to train ourselves every night after every game. Sometimes we're up to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning thinking about plays or reviewing plays. The more that repetitions that we see plays and situations that happen to other colleagues in games, that's how we learn how to deal with it if it comes to us in that particular game. And it is stressful because, you got to have thick skin to be an official. I always say that. But though the challenge is what helps us become better. And the replays, they're playing Three Blind Mice. The music is telling it, for everybody, the fans, to say boo. But you know what? We sit there, we try to get the play right. That is our main focus, is try to sit there and say, how can we get this play right according to the rules, right? We're not trying to go and mess up any type of game or anything like that, but we're trying to do it based upon what our job is telling us to do. And we're human. That is one thing, and that's what people tend to forget, that we do make mistakes. There's no question. I mean, everybody makes mistakes in life, but we have to be almost perfect, right? In an ideal world, but we're not. And we just train ourselves, video, get in that rule book every day just to say, okay, I'm just going to review this rule because one day it might be one thing, one day it might be another. Just continue reading that rule book. It's going to make you stronger as an official. It's going to make you confident to where you might not have to go to replay because you got to play right on the floor. So there's so many avenues, but you just have to continue to read the rules and consistently and repetitively watch games.
Shifting gears a little bit for all three of you, in its annual Women in the Workplace report, Lehman and McKinsey and Company found that Black women are more likely than white women to be on the receiving end of disrespectful and othering behavior. About 17% of Black women have been confused with other women, whereas it's only about 4% that happens with white women. How has race played a role in your career journey? And can you touch on experiences or environments where maybe you have or have not felt a sense of belonging based on race? And so I guess, Ayanna, why don't we start with you?
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
You think we'd be good at the on mute, off mute situation by now, but so I really do love that question. And I'll be very honest in the sense, for me, I love nothing more than being a Black woman. I think it gives me so many tools and so many perspectives. I am a minority and then I'm also a woman, and which one of those comes first, right? But I love that about me. I love that sometimes I walk into a room and I'm also very tall. I play basketball, so I'm pretty tall. And people are like, wait, what is she doing here? And I get to be myself and prove for whatever reason why I'm here. With that being said, I have been fortunate enough to work in some amazing places. And I will say that the NFLPA, I worked there. And as you know, Demora Smith is the executive director. So from the top down, it is very diverse and very inclusive of women and of minorities. And if there's any reason to prove that representation matters, like that, going through that experience was exactly what I needed to reaffirm that truth. So I've been, thankfully, every single job that I've ever had, my direct manager has been a female, whether they be Black or white, they've always been a female. So I've known that I can progress and move through this company if I would like to, because there's someone ahead of me doing it. They may have been the only female, but they were there. And then I worked at the NFLPA and the leadership was diverse. Obviously, we were working with athletes and the NFL is majority minority men. But what that did do is empower me in a way and give me the confidence that I needed. I could come to work as my full self. I didn't have to worry about, code switching or doing all these different things. And as I learned to do that, it sticks with me. So now I'm obviously at Under Armour, and that is a very different representation, as you can imagine, but the confidence still stays. So I get to move through the spaces just as confidently, just as empowered as I was prior to. And I'm so thankful for that, because I know if this was me right out of college, without that experience, I would fold under this. I wouldn't know where to go or what to do, because quite frankly, like Under Armour, there's just not a ton of people that look like me. So it can be very like uncomfortable, or you don't feel like you belong. But because I've grown up and I've had these awesome experiences with diverse workplaces, I take that with me everywhere that I go, regardless, and I can advocate for myself and advocate for women and Black people and all these and minorities with ease, because I've gotten to do that and I know that it works. So so that's my take.
Marissa, same question for you.
Yeah, I would say race has played a bigger role in my career than I anticipated. So in college, I played field hockey, which is a predominantly white sport. But prior to coming to college and high school, which I went to a really diverse high school, I played field hockey, basketball, and softball, which gave me interactions with all different types of people. So very much as Ayanna was saying, like I could talk to anyone. Like if you put me in a situation, like I am going to be able to have conversations with people from multiple different backgrounds. And that's what I love about my personality and just about who I am. Then when you go to college, which again Keene was very diverse, which I was really grateful for. So even though on my team, I maybe didn't have as much diversity outside of, less than a handful of us in my classrooms, it was a little more diverse. But when I graduated college and really started in sports, that's when I realized how big of a role my identity was going to play. And not necessarily by my choice, right? Like as soon as you go out into the workplace, especially as a confident person, as Ayanna was saying, like growing, like after you come off the field or the court or whatever sport, you're like, athletes carry a different confidence to them. The world is like, you're a woman, you're going to hit a glass ceiling. You're a minority, you're never going to be able to be yourself in the workplace. So you're immediately met with these barriers that are like, sorry, but you're never going to be a CEO, or you're going to have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, X, Y, Z to be able to get there. And that was really like a difficult pill to swallow. I was like, first of all, no one's going to tell me what I can and cannot do. Like if I set my mind on something, like I want to go after it. But it is a real reality that I am going to have barriers in the way. But I also realized the intersectionality of multiple identities that plays into that. One, if I think about my identity of race, I am light skinned, right? My experience as a light skinned Black woman is going to be way different than someone that is brown skinned or has a darker skin tone than I am. And I know that because of the colorism bias, that I may be more accepting to people because I am like light skin, right? Versus someone that may be darker. So that's something for me just to keep aware of as I navigate through this space, to advocate not only for myself, but for other Black women as I move forward. But then in addition to that, as Ayanna talked about coming out of college, when I started at the NCAA, I worked with a lot of senior level administrators. So not only am I a minority in this space, I'm a woman, I am way younger than everyone around me, and I am not tall. Ayanna is very tall. I'm short. So there's a lot of things that were kind of intersecting that could have created an environment where, I felt like I had to be someone else. And in the beginning I did, right? Like I always had to feel like I had to dress to the nines. My hair had to be this way. I had to have heels on and really just be able to code switch in those spaces. And I've found over time how I can still be Marissa in all of the spaces that I'm in, right? So some of the spaces I can wear sneakers, some spaces I have to wear heels, and that's okay, but I'm still going to show up as myself. And that took a little bit of time. And I think a big piece of that is similar to Ayanna. I have always directly reported to a minority, male or female, since college. Outside of my college coach, all of my direct reports have been minorities. So I've seen people navigate as themselves in spaces, and it be met with resistance for some, and it'd be welcomed for others. But I realized that I always wanted to be in a space where I was going to be accepted for who I am, regardless of the people around me. And I think that leadership has a big role in how that's done.
To the same question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree a lot with Marissa, and I'm sorry, Ayanna saying as well, because it's, when you say me, you're saying, it's saying that you can do it too, right? When I walk onto the court and they see a Black woman walk into the court and they're like, oh, wow. And you just get the stare and everybody watches you go by. And it's kind of like, you know what? I'm here for a reason. I worked hard every day and I earned every ounce of being where I'm at today. And I hope that when athletes or anybody in the stands, fans, they see me, they're like, you know what? I want to do it too. You know, you want to set an example to everybody else out there so that if they have a little girl or a little boy who wants to sit there and be an official and they say, it's an African-American, she's doing it, you can do it too. Higher ups has to give the opportunity. That's what happened with me. They needed more minorities. You think about just basketball itself, you know, what we have, almost probably close to over 90% is African-American athletes. And they feel comfortable when they see us walk on a floor. Same thing as coaches. And it's just this familiarity, this see every day, or if not, may not see every day, but feel comfortable because it looks like someone who they grew up with, family member, whatever it is. And I feel that the more opportunities that African Americans do have on the floor, it's a plus, because you see it when I have a game. Sometimes I have a game and there might be a call, and I pregame with, you know, when it comes to the captain's meeting, I'm like, you know, go to that calling official if you have a question, or if you think something should have took place, approach the official that called or closest to the, you know, the angle of what took place. And I say that so that it can open up the communication with any official. And a lot of times the Afro-American athletes come to me and say, well, miss, I said, well, I didn't call that. I can't see that. You have to go to other official and try to have that communication. So that kind of closes that gap of the bridge where I'm going to go where I'm comfortable. And I see that a lot in games. You know, you also see it on, you know, coaches' perspective too. You know, they love to see us. I mean, it's great. Dawn Stanley, it's great to, you know, show that other coaches can do the same. I mean, it's great. It's a great culture that is changing, but more needs to be done. More needs to be done. I mean, you think about it, when was the last time an Afro-American officiated the American East Conference women's basketball tournament? It was me. And we're going back a few years ago. So it's just things of nature of giving people opportunities, not saying maybe availability is not available or whatever the situation is, but you know what? If the opportunity is there, someone will sit there and say, hey, I want you, let me know what you could do because I want you to work these games. Because there's a lot of people who have talent. There's a lot of officials out there, and male, female, whatever it be, that deserves an opportunity, but that opportunity needs to persist and be open to that person.
Yeah, we'll stay with you for two, because I think you're hitting on it at the end there. And I guess it's, what have you seen throughout your career leaders do that enable you and other women of color to be successful, but also what can be done either to continue that or to start that? And so we'll start with you and go back to Marissa and Ayanna as well, but just interested in getting your thoughts on what creates an environment that allows a Black woman in particular to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have open-mindedness. You gotta talk to officials. I mean, no one talks to us. I guess we're like, it's almost like we put street clothes on and people don't know who we are. So you see in the elevator, I'm like, wait, I think I know you, you know, but I put my uniform on, they think, you know, I just say having that open-mindedness and talking to officials and saying, hey, what are some things do you think needs to change? And talk to the veterans. They're the ones that guided us, just like Marissa was saying, that, hey, my mentors, I have African-American and I have Caucasian mentors, but I have to go to my Afro-American mentors to sit there and say, well, how did you handle this? Because I know they experience the same thing that I have. And how do I perceive it? And how do I absorb it? And then, okay, this is what I need to do next time. It shouldn't really be like that. We should be open-mindedness and be able to work with anybody on the court and do our job. But though we get in a locker room, do we talk about politics? Really, how do you tell you? Don't talk about a few things when you're in a locker room or anywhere in the workplace, because it draws negative attention, or now a person might perceive you differently. So I would say that higher ups has to give the talk with other African Americans, or even just officials itself, get everybody's point of view. And I think that a lot of times diversity is also met by, because she may, like Marissa, my sister looks just like you. My brother is the same complexion as you. My mom looks like she's Caucasian. She's light with green eyes. I look like my father. So I've been through that growing up, going to the market, go get me some milk and come back, and they don't think we're together. So I've been dealing with that all my life. But now, how can you be received as a Black woman, right? You have to show yourself more that you are Black instead of saying people accept you for what you are. And the past thing, I see it with me and my sister hang out. Certain situations of that nature. And I think a lot of times that they will talk to me, then probably talk to a lighter skinned African American, because they feel that we are in attention in just by color. And when it comes to the higher ups, sometimes they think that someone who say a different descent, that meets the standard of an African American. Everybody has their own nationality, their own background, their own culture. And for me, I'm Senegalese, I'm West African, I'm Native American, and I am also Cape Verdean, but those some of the maybe Pacific or maybe half white, and then that's still considered to be the minority of an African American. So sometimes it's really, and that's across the country, and I truly believe a conversation needs to take place with higher supervisors to officials to sit there and say, what can we do?
Marissa, when you, as someone who's in the DEI space, when you hear what Fatou just said, what are your thoughts? I guess what steps would you take? I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that leaders and organizations can do to make sure that everyone feels successful. And a big part of that is first the acknowledgement and the education that not everyone's experiences are the same. So that the more that we educate and have an awareness that all of us come from different backgrounds, we're able to make sure that we're not giving everyone the same exact approach, right? We're really trying to ensure equity, not equality, like in what that looks like and how we're helping people. And I think something that specifically comes to mind is two situations, two different things. One is a situation. So when I, in a previous role, I oversaw a program as it related to football, and we had a coach come and talk to my boss. He was asking about this question, and like, you ever been in like a 3-person conversation, but like one person tries to make it a 2-person conversation by their body, like they kind of box you out from the situation, and was directly talking to my boss about this program and how he needs to get involved. And my boss was looking at him like, Marissa runs it. Like, Marissa is the person to talk to, like, thank you so much for that, but like Marissa is the person that you're gonna have to talk to. And like kept trying to direct the conversation to include me back into it, because at the end of the day, that person can tell him all he wants, but I'm the person that they have to go through. So I really appreciate that leadership included me into that conversation, and could have just been like, yeah, I'll take care of you, but directed it back to me to know this is the person that you have to go to. I don't care if you are looking at her differently because she's a woman or because she's a minority or whatever it may be. This is who you need to talk to. So I think leadership can do a really great job of making sure that everyone's successful and pointing people to the people that they need to talk to. Because I think sometimes people will try to exclude an individual from the conversation to go above them. And then the other thing I think is the bias, right? Think about your stereotypes. All of us have stereotypes, regardless of how you grew up, where you're from. all of us have these biases and can tell you a stereotype about another culture off the top of your head. You may not want to say it out loud, but you can think of one right now. So I think what we have to do is educate ourselves on that, right? If we have Black women, we're talking about how we can create environments for everyone to be successful, specifically women of color, Black women. If they're in a meeting and they get passionate, do not put them as the angry Black woman. Do not tell them that they need to, like, hey, why are you getting so worked up? When you just had the same energy on something else, but no one said the same thing to you because your identity is different than theirs. So I think that's where we have to really look at, like, what are these unconscious bias or conscious bias that we have, and how can we check them in work situations so that we're not portraying those stereotypes on other people? Because there are going to be times where, if we're just thinking about women, people are going to say, oh, you're emotional. Like, I have emotions. I'm a human, right? Like, you have emotions just the same. So let's not put a stereotype to it. Same thing as if we add on those different layers. So I think what we have to do is think about what our stereotypes are and not allow them, our biases are, and not allow them to show up in the workplace. But we also need other people in that organization around to ask questions when they hear someone say something that is not appropriate. So if someone says, Marissa's always worked up all the time. Well, what do you mean by that, right? Like, get to the root of what it is, because you need allies and other individuals to step up to be able to say that we don't have a culture where we are going to allow your thoughts that perpetuate unhelpful stereotypes to thrive here.
Ayanna, so you had mentioned DeMar Smith, obviously, with the NFLPA and maybe some more diverse organizations that you worked with. What are some of the things that you've seen that have potentially, leaders do that have helped your success and other women of color be successful?
It comes down to like maybe 2 to 3 things. I think one is empowerment. I think that's at every level, whether it's your children all the way up to people that you work with. Empowering people to feel confident in themselves, to feel confident in their perspectives and their thoughts. I think the more confident and full human beings we can be, the better we are in the workplace, representing ourselves and representing our perspectives. And that's as simple as like encouraging people to speak up. And you should do this for everybody, but obviously certainly make sure that your minority employees or teammates or anything like that, because it can tend to be discouraged in a lot of places, but like just encouraging people to speak up, encouraging people to create their own thoughts and narratives and confidently explain those and put their foot down about certain things and all that sort of stuff. But then I also think mentorship and really sponsorship. Actually, I think mentorship's a little like soft. You need like real life sponsors. So people that are speaking about you in rooms that you are not in, creating opportunities for you that you would not get resources for. Something as simple as introducing you to somebody. The sports industry is so relationship driven, and business in general is so relationship driven, that literally an intro from somebody else helps me so much in building relationships and getting deals done than anything ever will, because it's coming from someone that they trust, and then they have a little bit more trust in me. And so I find that when people have mentored or sponsored me and just talked about me in rooms I wasn't in and made the introductions and just talked me up a little bit, I was able to kind of, again, use my confidence that I already have and take advantage of the opportunity that's coming my way. And then lastly, I think that, it's the representation piece. Like, it's not that hard. Like, there are many minorities, women, BIPOC, groups of people that are willing, able, and capable to do roles. But people just like to hire, folks that they know, which I get. But that's when you should be incorporating, different resource groups or different, people to make sure that your candidate pools are diverse. There's so many qualified candidates, and there's really no reason why we're not, there are large groups of departments that just don't have any diversity in it. It's kind of like, no offense or anything, it's probably we're not trying hard enough. We can be deemed a little lazy sometimes, that not doing the work to be diverse, because there's plenty of applicants and qualified, or people that you can take a chance on and then really mentor. It may be the minority student that, maybe doesn't have the most like relevant work experience, but they've been really, good in class, or really adamant about the job. And then you can take the opportunity to teach them and give them that resource and access that's usually just not available.
You just hit on so many things that could take us well past our time here, which would be great. But I want to jump in on a couple of them, I guess, and stay with you on, mentorship versus sponsorship, which I agree is important, but maybe examples. And you also said, what are they saying about me when I'm not in the room, right? I can say one thing to your face, and maybe I'm saying something else that's different behind closed doors, and that's not helping you. So just experience, and I know you're young and just getting started in your career in a lot of ways, but ways that maybe somebody or something impacted your career to
Absolutely.
Get you started, to make you understand that hey, I do have a place in this path that I want to, that I've chosen. So a mentor, a sponsor, whomever it might be, and how directly that impacted you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I start with my professors, but first and foremost. When I was in college, they were I was probably like the annoying student that was always raising their hand and doing all this sort of stuff, but they listened to me, they empowered me, they shared opportunities with me that, job opportunities and things like that. My direct managers have always been extremely, extremely strong mentors and really sponsors for me, advocating for promotions when I wasn't there. Really, like, my old boss probably hates me because I would submit like a 9-page review. My annual review was 9 pages because I was really, really adamant about like documenting everything that I did. And she actually would go through all the 9 pages with me, and we would go through every single thing. Obviously, I have to be prepared for myself, but and I also, mentors just don't come and say like, yeah, you look like you're kind of smart. Like, sure. I go and ask them. And I've had the amazing opportunity. I'm an adjunct professor at my alma mater this year. And I teach a class of, it's called The Power of the Athlete Brand. I only got that position because I still have relationships with people at my campus, but I spent 2 years TAing with somebody at the PA that they did a class at Howard University. And I was like, I saw him in the kitchen and I said, oh my gosh, I heard you doing this class. Can I help you with it? And now he's a lifelong mentor to me and has helped me. Like, he actually just tried to hire me. I was like, I just got to UA. I can't leave yet. So it's really going after the things that you want. And I, again, thankfully, like through sports and everything, I've gained a decent sense of confidence, and definitely took some time to grow into. But I'm honestly, any success that I have is it's only as good as the people that have poured into me. And I've been so blessed to have people that see something in me, maybe because I ask, but they see something in me, and and I really hold them accountable to like continuing to support me and mentor me throughout my process.
That too, same type of thing. I know, you mentioned Michael was going to get you to D1 in a year. Which is aggressive, obviously. But you mentioned Barb Jacobs, and you mentioned a handful of Black women officials, but at the time, at least from America East, that's all it was. There was a very small pool of Black officials that you could look at as mentors and someone who looked like you. So just same question for you: who were those people, and what did they do to help keep you focused on what your goal, which was to become one of the top officials in the NCAA?
Yeah, Barbara Jacobs gave me an opportunity. Being from Providence, Rhode Island, I couldn't believe it. I really became a D1 referee in 1 year. He was right. So, being linked up with Barbara Jacobs, she made sure that I was protected, and also made sure she guided me through what I needed to do. But she only could do so much as a supervisor, right? So she provided me with mentors, Denise Brooks. I I had, God rest her soul, Benita Spence. And they were just, and Rachel Jones, God rest her soul, you know, and they helped me day in and day out. If I needed anything, that's all about a phone call to say, I need help with this play. I just don't know how to take this situation when I was in a locker room or on court and they wasn't listening to me because I'm new, or because they had their own conversation, like Marissa was saying, and dismissing me in the whole situation. So, I mean, it was probably a handful of African-American referees just in the country itself, never mind in just America East. So it's not just America East situation, it's also other conferences. They were looking for minorities to be involved. And I jumped at the opportunity and I kept like a sponge. I kept fighting to get better. And with my mentorship, I mean, that was a blessing because these women are for women. They had to go to get where I'm at and past that. I mean, that's an encyclopedia. You know, they have the knowledge of how to get through it and tough through it and becomes, you know, several times in the Final Four. And, you know, it's just about giving the opportunity, knowing that you can do it and have the confidence and continue to work every day at it. And they kept at it. They didn't take no for an answer for me. So I continued to work. And, you know, I am happy and blessed to be where I'm at, where I am today.
Well, and you mentioned advocating for yourself, right? Ayanna, same thing. Marissa, for any of the three of you, I guess, what advice would you give to, let's say, student athletes in America East, student athletes of color, Black women? What advice would you give to them on how to advocate for yourself? You know, there's a fine line that you face that maybe me as a white man would not face. Maybe I don't have to have, you know, walk that same line. So what advice would you give to advocate for yourself?
Be persistent. At this point, don't take no for an answer. Be persistent. If this is something that you want to do, maybe this avenue is not the way to go. Someone else has the same avenue somewhere else. You might have to go to another job. You might have to go to another state or whatever it is. If this is what you want to do, be confident, be persistent. And when an opportunity knocks, work hard to get where you want to go.
Yeah, I would add two things. So find a space where you can be yourself, right? Like you don't have to bring your entire self to work and do everything that you're doing with your friends. You don't have to do in the workplace, right? But find a space where you can show up, you can be who you are, whatever pieces of yourself you want to bring, make sure that that's okay. And then to add on to what Fatu just said, like, if you get a no, that's okay. When I first started, realized that I wanted to work in college athletics, I sent out like 26 emails to different people in like the states surrounding my hometown to look for something for the summer. I got 3 responses. One didn't go anywhere. One ended up in me creating an internship for myself at University of Delaware, and the other one led me to my mentor, who I still talk to today. So you don't have to get a response from everyone, right? Like people are going to ignore you. People that I talked to today ignored me back then, right? Like people are going to ignore you, but the ones that do respond, like take advantage of those opportunities.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Marissa. I think that when it comes to advocating for yourself, I'm not going to lie, like, for example, like salary negotiation, like actually advocating for yourself, it's wildly intimidating for me and really hard. So I was bad at it for a while. And then in the workplace, I find that like, I just have to ask for what I want. Like, what are my non-negotiables? I don't mind working really hard and really long hours, but I'm also not going to do that at this point in my career and not get compensated fairly for it. I just won't do it. Or, you know, if I'm asking for like new and better developmental opportunities, and I've asked multiple times and I'm still not getting it, like we're going to have a serious conversation, because I am the only one that's responsible for me. I'm the only one responsible for my finances. I'm the only one responsible for my life. And to think that people are going to then just cater to my needs based off of the fact that like I'm kind of nice and good at my job, like that's not really gonna be a thing. When you bring it back to sports, I remember I tore my ACL in college and my coach was like, nobody's gonna want you to recover faster than you are. So you need to put the work in, you need to ask for X, Y, all the different things that you need. And so I take that into my, into the workplace. And so in most cases, if I've asked, like had serious conversations with my employer about my compensation or promotion or something like that, and it goes long enough that like it doesn't happen, I get another job, I leave. I'm not going to participate in that sort of narrative and that sort of environment because I think that the work that I do is really valuable. And if you're not going to value it, then I don't need to work here. And so then I will move on to a new role where they do until they don't. And then I move on to the next role until they do. And if they continue, if they don't at some point, I just don't participate in things that are not conducive to me. I probably have like X amount of boundaries that I like to uphold. And if you are not going to do that, then we just won't work together anymore. And there's no harm or foul. I'm still really, really like amazing relationships with everybody that I've worked with. And I think that comes down to like how you advocate. You don't want to be an asshole about it, but and thankfully I just tend to try to be good to people. Like I think a lot what we learned with the pandemic is just humanizing people more. Like we are all going through so much. And so I tend to just try to be good to the people that I work with. And then at the end of the day, if we can't come to an agreement, like then we can just respectfully like move to a different opportunity. And it doesn't have to be a negative experience at all. It can actually be a really positive one.
Great. I think there's been a lot of common themes here, but in the last couple of minutes, I do want to turn it back to each of the three of you for one last chance here as we can kind of round up our discussion on finding your passion. Is there one thing or a couple of things that you want takeaways for the audience to hear from you as we continue to spread respect? And so Fatou, I'll start with you.
Yes, of course. Give the opportunities to African Americans as well who work hard, and it could be male or female, and include them. Equality of, for me, women's basketball, it's women's basketball, have that opportunity for African American women to have an opportunity. But if you don't present it, how is it going to be taking place? And have an open mind of ideas, have an open mind when it comes to, maybe I should give this person an opportunity, and maybe even have a discussion with the veterans who's been around, who's seen things, and how can we change the culture that took place that might have been toxic, might have been where it's not acceptable anymore. So how can we move that panel all the way to the right? But if not, even if it's halfway, that's better than nothing. And I'm glad that this panel is taking place, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And and it shows a light. It shows a light to everybody in the conference, to any other conference. Very happy for Denise King. She's at UMass Lowell, so it shows that these other athletes can do the same. Because being a student athlete, you see coaches, you see staff, you see supervisors, you see it just creates this path that there's life beyond basketball. And I'm talking about basketball, and it's any other sport across the board. There's life beyond that. And for me, not playing professionally, I chose not to play in college, but I still stayed in the game by officiating, and it's fun. And I want to make sure that other officials behind me in any sport can do the same thing. And a student athlete, it starts with a student athlete too. You see it every day. Why not do it? Do something just like Marissa, or just like Anaya, just same thing. Just keep persistently do something that makes you think back of, wow, I'm glad I did that because it's something that I love and played or whatever it is. And I can bring it back to my community. I can bring it back to whatever situation that you do come involved in. So just focus on the opportunity, to open-minded, be persistent, be confident, and continue your drive.
Great thoughts, Marissa.
Yeah, that was really good. So I would just say, in finding your passion, to the student athletes or to people early in their career, just know that your journey may not take you exactly where you think it's going to right now, but to enjoy the steps along the way, to figure out who you are and what's important to you and how you can do that for a living. And then to keep fighting for yourself as you move forward. But as you do this and you go through your journey and you're finding your passion, build good habits early, specifically around advocating for yourself and for your self-care, because habits are way easier to build than they are to break. So make sure that you have a strong foundation as you continue to move forward.
Great. Appreciate that. And Ayanna, bring us home.
I guess I want to talk to the student athletes that may be on this call specifically. And I just want you to cherish the moment that you're in. Like, it's a really special time. And I promise you that all the things that you're going through and experiencing right now are going to like help you out 10 times, like tenfold as you go through your career. The fact that you get, like, we're getting yelled at, we have a little bit of like toughness to us. We have confidence, we build social skills, all these different things are going to be so amazing for you as you move forward in your career and think about things post athletics. And continue to build on that confidence that athletes so naturally have. And I always say this, just like, be good and be kind to people, because you never know who is going to help you or be the person that's hiring you or anything like that in your career. I try really hard to just be like a nice person. It's very odd that you would think that that's few and far between, but it kind of is sometimes. And, sometimes the people on your teams or the people in your classroom that are next to you are going to be the folks that are going to be moving through the same industry as you and can help you get a new job, can look out for you here. I spend a lot of time with people that I went to college with, or that, like, people from my first job. And then I think to the administrators and the coaches and things like, you guys on the call as well, that may be in positions to hire or to give opportunity, really, really challenge yourself to figure out, like, if there isn't diversity in your staff or on, why is that the case? Because there is no drought of talent. There are little universities that are dedicated to housing and educating minority students, and giving them quality education. There is no drought for talent. And so if that means, trying, keeping the post up for a little bit longer or reaching out to different folks, like, I promise you, there are a ton of amazing candidates that will be willing and so excited to work with you all. So I just encourage you to kind of keep that energy up, and diversity is just, it works. Like, the data shows that it's like a really good business move. So yeah, just wishing you all the best of luck in that as well.
Well, thank you. And I said at the beginning that the bar was set very high over the last 2 days, and you exceeded it. And so I appreciate each of the three of you and your contributions to this. And Kate, I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. And wow, that was incredible. So Ayanna, Fatou, Marissa, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I mean, really, that's where the value comes from, is hearing your different perspectives and experiences. So incredible takeaways. I mean, there's so many, but be good and be kind, that Ayanna just shared with us, I think, is a really important one, and is thematic to what we've talked a lot about today, creating senses of belonging, changing what the face of leadership looks like. So I just want to share my gratitude. Matt, thanks for being a great moderator, and to the three of you for joining us and being an inspiration to student athletes, administrators, and coaches alike. With that, we are concluding the 2022 Spread Respect Forum. So just a couple quick reminders. Please, everybody, take the survey so that our staff can make sure that this forum continues to get better year over year. I want to thank all of our panelists over the past 2 days, experts and practitioners from around the space, inspiring stories. Thanks to our moderators for guiding these conversations, some really critical and inspiring inspiring, takeaways that we came out of these conversations. So it's been great to host you all. Stay tuned for more Spread Respect programming coming out of the league office this spring and early fall. And then just keep doing the good work. So thanks to the three of you once again, really appreciate it. And everyone have a great rest of your day.